What is going on, y'all? So that was obviously not the right opening. Not sure what happened there. Obviously, it was my fault. But anyway, thank you for joining us here on the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network. Today is Tuesday, April 8th in the year of our Lord 2025. We have a ton to get into today. We got tariff talk that the left is all upset about, even though it wasn't that long ago that they were for these same tariffs. We have the left also admitting what we all knew all along, that Biden was completely out of it. And again,
technology is not my friend. And we have like I said, the left admitting that Signalgate, we have the left admitting that bribing has been out of it, and Signalgate apparently has been resolved, I guess. But we got a lot more to talk about if we have time. But thank you for joining us here for the briefing on the SHR Media Network. And you can follow this show on all the socials at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Truth Social. And for our merch, head over to missionreadymen.com and click on Shop 7 Armors and check out this design and all the other great designs that we have over there. All right, I think I got everything, so let's get after it. And we're going to talk about the tariff fallout, but I just want to mention they were all upset because the stock market took a pretty big hit over the past few days. But as I was preparing to come on, I saw that it has rebounded, and the stock market is actually up over 1,000 points. It had been up over 1,400. It's still up over 1,000. So we will see how that goes. The stock market is not the economy. It's a snapshot in time. But like I said, we'll see. But the opponents of these tariffs, they're opposing them reflexively. They're opposing them reflexively because this is what President Trump wants to do. Because the policy prescription that Trump is laying out, that is trying to put forward, is pretty much the same as a policy prescription that a lot of leftists were advocating for, like I said, not that long ago. And I'm talking about leftists like Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama, even. And it's just interesting that these people are upset and railing against it for the sole reason that it's a conservative, and not just any conservative, but President Trump. I think they would oppose it regardless, whether it was whatever Republican was in office, they would oppose it because it wouldn't be them in charge. It wouldn't be them. It wouldn't be them with the power. And it's sad, really. It really is, because these people, let's just take a look at it. Let's just take a look at what they have been, what they've been saying, and then we'll talk about it some more.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? how big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker, and how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo. As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now.
She actually was making sense. Shocking as it may be, Nancy Pelosi was actually making sense. And I'm not going to play this whole clip. I'm going to see if we can find the other point that I wanted to point out from her, and also from a couple of other people that we'll get into here in a second. But you know what? Let's go back to Ms. Pelosi and listen to the rest of this. Maybe. There we go.
That the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president, in his statement requesting this special waiver, said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And one of the reasons that it is because well, first let me just make another point, and that is that our colleagues on the other.
Anyway, like I said, that goes on for about 5 minutes. I don't want to get into the whole thing. But again, she was actually making sense. She was actually making sense, and she sounded like she agrees with President Trump. Of course, this was back in 1996, probably before she started drinking heavily. But you get the idea. And it's not just her. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to get into it all. Just you can find it on Twitter and all over the internet. Barack Obama, Bernie Sanders, all the rest of them talking about trade with China and things like that. But why are they so upset now? Why are they upset, and why are some of these countries that have since this whole thing started have decided that they were going to bend the knee and sit down at the negotiating table? But why were they upset? They were upset because they've had the advantage. They've had the advantage for so long that any change to the status quo seems like an attack. It reminds me of that quote by the great Thomas Sowell, where he says that today some people are so used to special treatment that equal treatment is considered to be discrimination. So now that the United States under President Trump is reciprocating the tariffs that they've been imposing on us for decades, that is upsetting the status quo, and they can't deal with it. They can't recognize that they've been taking advantage of us for so long that when we finally decide to stand up, all of a sudden that's a problem. And if tariffs, because one of the other complaints is that tariffs are going to hurt our economy. Okay. If tariffs were so damaging, why do China and India and Canada and Vietnam and Germany and all the other countries that we're reciprocating tariffs with, why do they employ them in the first place? If they're so damaging, why do they employ them in the first place? And if they're so damaging, how has China's economy grown so much? It's experiencing a slower growth lately, and they're at a severe disadvantage when it comes to the trade war with us. But even before President Trump's 2018 tariffs, China's economy was booming. Well, I shouldn't say booming. China's economy was growing, and it was growing at a fairly rapid pace. But they were experiencing some other issues that we don't really need to get into right now. But nevertheless, the tariffs were not hurting their economy. Tariffs are not hurting India's economy, which is booming. The EU. If tariffs are so detrimental, they would not have been levying them against us for so long. So they must think that there's some benefit to them, right? These countries are so upset that the gravy train that they've been riding, the gravy train that they've been riding, financed by the United States taxpayer, is coming to an end. It's coming to an end. And a lot of leftists in this country think that it's going to ignite a trade war. Well, I have news. We've been in a trade war. They have been waging a trade war against us for decades. We just haven't been engaged. We haven't been fighting back. We've just been taking it to the face, as my buddy Sackhead Sean likes to say. My dad always told me growing up, don't start a fight, but if you have to fight, finish it. And this is a fight that we must finish. This is a fight that we must finish. I remember one time, the one time I got suspended from school was for fighting. And if I had gotten suspended for anything else, I would have been scared spitless to go home, okay? But it was for a fight that I didn't start. I talked to my dad. He gave me money. And I went to the movies and saw Rocky IV. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, this is a fight that we have to finish. This is a fight that we have to finish. And I believe that we will, because the tariffs that we're levying against these countries, which have, I believe it's up to 70 now, have decided to come to the table and negotiate. But these tariffs are reciprocal. It's not like we just decided out of the blue, you know what, let's just tariff these countries. Just because, reasons. No, these tariffs are reciprocal. They're retaliatory. People don't like to use the word retaliatory because it sounds aggressive, but you know what? I don't care. we're reacting to what they've been doing to us. We're reacting in kind to what they've been doing to us. It's not like we're being excessive, because we're not even, it was supposed to be 1-for-1, but we're offering them that these tariffs are discounted. The reaction to these tariffs is like seeing someone getting punched in the face or beat down and then being mad at the person who's taking the beating. It makes that much sense. Trump has been talking about tariffs and how we've been taken advantage of in trade for over 30 years. There's a famous clip of him talking to Oprah when she had her show talking about this. He has, since his first term, when prior to the whole COVID pandemic, the economy, our economy was booming. And don't forget, he implemented tariffs against China and other countries during his first term, tariffs that the Biden administration kept in place, mind you. So if they're so destructive, why did Biden keep them in place? Or I shouldn't say Biden, I should say the people who are running the country in Biden's name. And we'll get to that here in a minute. But why did they keep them in place if they were so destructive? The only reason they are claiming they're destructive is because it's Trump's idea. That's it. And meanwhile, like I said, the stock market has rebounded somewhat. Oil prices are down. Gas prices are down across a lot of the country. It's gone up a little bit here, but I expect with oil prices down under $60 a barrel, that's going to change. That's going to change fairly quickly, if it hasn't already since the last time we got gas. But this is going to be fine. Everybody just needs to calm down. We've been through this before, and we've had market corrections before. The stock market, the economy is responding to President Trump trying to make things better. And like I said, he has a record of success that I trust, and I am just going to keep calm. And it hasn't even been 100 days yet. It's been a week. It's been less than a week since the excuse me, since the tariffs were put in place. Give it time. Just give it some time. If things aren't better in 2 years when the midterms come around, well, that will work itself out too. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. All right. I mentioned the people who were running the country in place of bribing for 4 years. And there are a number of books that are coming out now. During the campaign, during the 2020 campaign, we could see that Bribin was not the same guy he had been. We could see he was not the same guy he was during his vice presidential term. We could see he wasn't the same guy when he was in the Senate. It was just obvious to anyone with 2 eyes and a couple of brain cells to rub together. But they kept telling us he was fine. Joe Scarborough told us he was as sharp as he's ever been. And if you didn't believe that's a F you. There are a few books coming out. Chris Whipple, and I'm not sure who he is. Apparently he's a journalist of some kind. And he's got a book where he interviewed Ron Klain, who was President Biden's chief of staff, and for a couple of years. And then he was an advisor on his 2024 campaign before he dropped out. And he details issues during it. He talks about how he couldn't believe how exhausted Bribin looked. And he left during debate prep after about 30 minutes into an hour session and went and took a nap by the pool. He didn't know any of the things that Trump had been saying about him and didn't grasp, and this is according to Ron Klain, couldn't grasp what the back and forth was all about. Ron Klain said that he was out of touch with American politics and was obsessed with the leaders in NATO and wanted to be the head of NATO, apparently. Just out of it. After the debate, after that disastrous debate, he was at a fundraiser at Governor Murphy's house, Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey, and they had to put fluorescent tape on the floor so he wouldn't get lost. Not just like so he could hit his marks for cameras and stuff like that. They had to put fluorescent tape on the floor so he wouldn't get lost in the house. But this, like I said, this is stuff we all knew. We knew this. We could see it. We could see it. And Jake Tapper is coming out with a book by another journalist that I never heard of, where he's going to be talking about all the cover up of Bribin's obvious cognitive decline. Why is this happening now? Why are they admitting now what they told us were conspiracy theories and cheap fakes during Bribin's presidency? Are they going to apologize for all the times that they told us we were conspiracy theorists and we were wrong and to F off? Of course not. But these people like Jake Tapper, who he said to, I believe it was the ag secretary, that he wasn't on the left when she told him his side. I don't have the clip, but wow. He's not on the left. Of course he is. Anyway, these people like Tapper and the rest of the American Pravda and Ron Klain, they covered up what we could all see. They covered up what we could all see, that President Biden had pudding for brains. Some would argue that happened before he even became vice president, but that's a whole other issue. But they, like I said, they told us that thinking Biden was senile was a conspiracy theory. The videos were cheap fakes. They told us not to believe our lying eyes. But these books are detailing what we all knew. And it tracks with the special counsel, Robert Hur, who was investigating whether or not Bribin had illegally kept classified documents. And he declined to press charges. He declined to pursue it further because he was an elderly man with a bad memory. If he was an elderly man with a bad memory who couldn't stand up to charges of illegally holding classified documents, how could he possibly have been up to the job of President of the United States? He described him as having, his memory was hazy, fuzzy, poor, with significant limitations. This was all in his report. You can go read it. He also noted that Brybin couldn't recall specific milestones in his life, like when he served as vice president and when his son died. Both. But yet they told us that everything was fine and that he was perfectly able, in fact, as able as he's ever been to serve as president of the United States. I mean, it laugh because it's not funny because our country is at stake, but at the same time, this is how stupid they think we are. This is how stupid they think we are. And I don't want to say unbelievable, because when it comes to the left, pretty much all of this is as believable as anything. But it's sad and it's dangerous to have people in those positions running the country like that and running the media interference for that. The American Pravda, as I like to say. Anyway, we are going to have a word from our sponsor, and then we're going to get into something kind of a continuation, but not really, on the tariff issue. But first, I want to talk about our sponsor, Carry Girl. And Carry Girl is my wife's company, my beautiful wife's company. And we have a bunch of great designs up on the website. You can check it out. And our t-shirts, our designs are some of the coolest designs. The t-shirts are of the highest quality that you will find anywhere. Put them up against any of the well-known t-shirt companies, the other well-known t-shirt companies that are out there, and the quality is better because we get our t-shirts from American companies, and we make sure that they are of the highest quality. There's also drinkware, hats, all kinds of other accessories that your wife or girlfriend are definitely gonna love. And if you don't, if you aren't familiar with the sizes or not sure what you think she might like, just get a gift certificate. Just get a gift certificate and let her pick out her own gifts, and neither one of you will be disappointed. She won't be disappointed in your lack of taste, and she won't be disappointed in the gear that she gets from Carry Girl. So be sure to check it out. Visit carrygirl.com today. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch Sackhead Sean, who I mentioned earlier, with The Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. The Reaver of Common Sense Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. He's been a little under the weather lately, but he will be back. So be sure to tune in. Be sure to tune in this Friday. And every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, be sure to check out the Bloviating Zeppelin in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. He has a great show and great insights and great guests, and you will not be disappointed with any of the shows here on the SHR Media Network. So be sure to like, subscribe, share the great shows of all those guys. We have, I think we're down to 53 subscriptions that we need to reach 500. And once we do that, some things open up and our reach can expand. So please like, subscribe, and share these videos and help us get the word out. Pray for us that we can get those 53 subscriptions and have a huge breakthrough this year. We want to reach as many people as we possibly can. All right, let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. And I said that we were going to talk about, continue talking about the tariffs a little bit from a different, little bit different perspective. And the things that President Trump is doing takes courage. A lot of his actions are unpopular with the American Pravda, with the left, but he's pushing forward anyway. Excuse me. He's pushing forward anyway. And it reminds me of a quote. And I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. And nope, that's not it. It reminds me of a quote from Captain America: Civil War. It's a Marvel movie. I'm a comic book nerd. I'm a Marvel nerd. So just bear with me. But there's a quote, and it actually, I'm not going to get into it, but here's a graphic of it. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. This is Captain America, and he says, "It doesn't matter what the press says, doesn't matter what the politicians or the mob say, doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something wrong is something right. The nation was founded on one principle above all else, the requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or the consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move." A lot of people probably saw that, and that was actually from a panel in Amazing Spider-Man. I forget which issue, 537, something like that. A lot of people hear that and think how profound it is. It was actually an almost verbatim quote from Mark Twain, but nevertheless. Courage is standing firm in your faith when compromise seems like the most expedient, easiest thing to do. Courage is the resolve to do the right thing, even if it costs you everything. You can't be a leader without courage. You can't be an effective leader anyway without courage. And you can't live a godly life and pursue God and pursue his calling for your life without courage. Now, Trump is in the spotlight right now, obviously. And so the things that he's doing obviously are showing courage and showing his resolve to do everything he believes is the best thing for this country, regardless of the opposition. But courage is more often than not expressed behind the scenes. When presented with options to either press on, continue the march, or give up. And that's going to happen in people's everyday lives who don't have cameras on them 24/7. People who are presented with options in their personal, professional lives that never make the news. The Bible tells us numerous times to be of good courage. Do not be afraid. Be of good cheer. But one of the ones that stood out to me as I was preparing to talk about this is Jeremiah 1:8. And Jeremiah 1:8 says, well, like I said, technology and me are not getting along right now. That's not what the Bible says. Jeremiah 1:8 says, do not be afraid of them, for I am with you to deliver you, declares the Lord. The Lord is commanding Jeremiah in this passage to go out to all the nations and declare his word, to spread his word, and to not fear whatever opposition he may encounter. If we're going to be men of God, if we're going to turn this country around, we're going to have to be of good courage. And know that God is our shield, our protector, and our deliverer. And I think President Trump has this attitude, and excuse me, I think it's been brought to the forefront, so to speak, ever since his assassination attempt. He said numerous times he believes that God saved him that day in order to help turn this country around. And I believe that. I believe that. I believe that is the source of his courage in the face of all of this opposition. And something else that I wanted to tack on to this that God wanted me to talk about, I believe, he can only deliver us if we believe. Romans 3:23 says that for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. All of us. Every last one of us. But there's good news because Romans 6:23 says, for the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life. So there's a gift that has been given to us by God. And the way that we obtain that gift is shown in Romans 10:9. If you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So those of you who hear me talk about this on a regular basis, that's how we obtain the free gift of eternal life. And believe me, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. People who know me know that I have fallen way short. But I believe that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, and God raised him from the dead. And so I have that free gift of eternal life. Because believe me, water is wet and hell is hot. And that is a place you do not want to go. I do not wish hell on anyone. My worst enemy. Hell is someplace you don't want to go. So confess with your mouth and believe with your heart that God has raised him from the dead, and you will be saved. All right. Now that I've preached at you a little bit, I want to get back to some of the things that I wanted to talk about before we got to get you out of here, because we have about 18 minutes left, and that actually went a little quicker than I expected. The Supreme Court has actually given President Trump a pretty big win. A pretty big win. How's that for a segue from hell is hot to the Supreme Court? Anyway, the Supreme Court has given President Trump a pretty big win. And they issued a ruling where they vacated Judge Boasberg's order to ordered barring Trump from or the Trump administration from deporting gang members under the Alien Enemies Act, and ordered him to bring back someone who was allegedly deported erroneously. These people entered the country illegally. They entered the country illegally, and they are members of organizations that have been deemed terrorist organizations by this country. I understand people talking about due process, and I get it on an intellectual level, but they entered the country illegally, and they're members of terrorist organizations. Bye. Kick rocks. I do not care about your due process. Because if you're here legally, you have the documentation to prove that you're here legally. And I know that there was an order from another judge years ago that this guy shouldn't be deported or whatever. If he's a member of MS-13, I believe it's MS-13. It might be Tren de Aragua. I'm not sure. Whichever. I don't care. I do not care. And the Supreme Court, in issuing this ruling, and of course, Amy Coney Barrett sided with the leftist on the court. What a disappointment she has turned out to be. Huge disappointment. Anyway, the Supreme Court ruled that the Judge Boasberg, had no standing to rule on this case, and that the cases needed to be brought in the jurisdiction where they were being held, which was Texas. I don't know that. I think there's a better chance that Texas judges will rule in favor of kicking these people out and sending them to that detention center in El Salvador. It's tough to say because obviously we thought Amy Coney Barrett was going to be a staunch conservative, and she turned out to be nearly as big a leftist as Sotomayor and Jackson and Kagan. That's right. My beautiful wife says, if you come over illegally, guess what? You're a criminal. Bye. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. So this isn't over. This wasn't like a permanent order, that this is going to be revisited. There will be hearings, most likely, here in Texas, and I think there's some others being held in Arizona. We'll see. But as far as I'm concerned, and there are some legal minds that I respect, and Judge Napolitano and Jonathan Turley and other people who think that the administration overstepped. And I guess from a strict legal standpoint, maybe that's true. But I think the Alien Enemies Act gives them a wide latitude. And when it comes to these people who came over illegally and are members of these organizations, these terrorist organizations, I think you gave up your rights to any type of due process, to any type of any of that. All right, I'm sure that's not the last last time we'll talk about that. I'm sure that is going to be an evergreen topic for a while going forward. But something else happened. Something else happened this week that I really wanted to get into, because we talked about Signalgate before, and we talked about Mike Waltz talking about how somebody may have gotten into his phone and switched contacts and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, just that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Stop talking. Well, it turns out that that's not exactly what happened, but it's not entirely his fault. Let's take a look at this, because I want you to. This is from the Guardian, not one of my favorite news outlets, but they actually have a pretty decent write-up on this, and so let's take a look at that. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want you to check this out. So Mike Waltz, as we know, included a journalist in a group chat, a Signal chat about U.S. strikes in Yemen. And apparently, I didn't realize this, but Trump did briefly consider firing Waltz. And I said when it first happened that he needed to go. I said that it was a mistake that could not happen, and he needed to go. I reconsidered that. I reconsidered that because I found myself agreeing with a bunch of leftists, which is never a good look. So I reconsidered my position on that. And obviously Trump decided against it. But let's take a look at what the explanation actually is. So it says here, according to 3 people briefed on the internal investigation, Goldberg had emailed the campaign a story that criticized Trump for his attitude towards wounded service members. And to push back against the story, the campaign enlisted the help of Waltz, their national security surrogate. Goldberg's email was forwarded then to Trump spokesman Brian Hughes, who then copied and pasted the content of the email, including the signature block with Goldberg's phone number, into a text message that he sent to Waltz so that he could be briefed on the forthcoming story. Waltz did not call Goldberg, but the people said that in a twist, inadvertently ended up saving Goldberg's number in his iPhone under the contact card for Hughes, who is now the spokesperson for the National Security Council. And so, as a result, when he went to go select Hughes for this Signal chat, Goldberg's number came up. And that's how it got included. According to the White House, the number was erroneously saved, during a contact suggestion update by Waltz's iPhone. Another reason to absolutely hate iPhones. I will never own one. I think iPhones are absolutely terrible. Hate me all you want, come at me all you want. I do not care. My career has been in tech and I have supported iPhones since the iPhone 3. I hate them and I will never own one. Rant over. So according to a contact suggestion update by Waltz's iPhone, which one person described as a function where an iPhone algorithm adds a previously unknown number to an existing contact that it detects may be related. And of course, the mistake went unnoticed until the Signal chat. Yeah. Excuse me. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, but here we are. And if you have an iPhone and you've seen this or dealt with this before, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear why you subject yourself to an iPhone, but that's a whole other story. I did say rant over. Anyway, it's so Signalgate was an honest mistake. I don't know. Okay. Okay. If that's what happened, that's what happened. All right. We got about 6 minutes left, and there are a couple of, I don't really have time to get into it. I'll get into it in our next show, but I did want to talk about the story of the kid who murdered another kid at a high school track meet. And of course, the murderer, I shouldn't say of course, but the murderer is black, the victim is white. And of course, the family and friends and race hustlers have rallied around this murderer and have raised, I believe, over $200,000 now in a GoFundMe for this kid's legal defense. This is a tragedy. And I'm not going to get into all the specifics right now. We don't have time to get into that because it's a lot. This is like another George Floyd situation. They're canonizing this kid simply because he's black. The fact that he killed somebody for no reason, for absolutely no reason, is immaterial, apparently. So I'm gonna have I'm gonna have a lot to say about that next time, because I really want to dig into this, into that, and into the GoFundMe and who's spearheading all that, because it's that kid needs to rot. That kid needs to rot in jail for the rest of his life. Anyway, you know what? Let's get you out of here on something. Oh, did I save it? I don't think I did, unfortunately. No, I didn't. There was a journalist who approached Alejandro Mayorkas, former HHS secretary, approached him at an airport and asked him about why he said that the border couldn't be secured, or that it was secure, and then all of a sudden now, less than 3 months, and the crossings have dropped 95%. And of course, Mayorkas had absolutely nothing to say, but he had that ridiculously punchable look on his face the entire time. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick before we get you out of here. I may not be able to. But you know how I feel about yeah, you know what? Here we go. You know how I feel about Mayorkas and his epically punchable face, because he was perhaps one of the most arrogant, insufferable people in the entire administration, in the entire Biden administration. All right, this clip is over 2 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but let's check this out. Maybe. Yeah, here we go.
Yes.
Yes.
Julio Rosas, Blaze Media.
Oh, pleasure.
How you
Pleasure.
doing? How you
Very
doing,
fine.
sir?
How are you?
I just wanted to ask you how it feels to see
Not right
that
now.
the
Thank you.
United States has a secure border now that President Trump is in office, as opposed to when you were Secretary of Homeland Security. Do you have any regret facilitating an open border, sir? Border crossings are down 95%.
Security announcement. Please maintain.
Do you regret allowing Tren de Aragua to gain a foothold in the United States, sir?
Unintended baggage is
Look at that. Look at that punchable face. Now, I am not advocating
say,
that
sir,
anybody go and
about your
punch
time
him in
as
the
Homeland
face.
Security Secretary?
I am obviously not
Facilitating an
advocating
open
that. But come on. Isn't it obvious? Oh, man. Anyway. That's all I got for you right now. I will try to do better the next time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share these videos. Share all of the SHR media content, because we want to continue to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and the message of hope and of liberty that he has promised to us, because we want to preserve it. We want to preserve it for our future generations. And if you like the shirt I'm wearing, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out the cool designs and the message that have the message of faith and liberty that we have over there. This is Christian, straight male, unwoke, unvaxxed. How else can I offend you today? And And head over to carrygirl.com as well and check out all those great designs and check out all the accessories that that Carry Girl has over there for your wife or your girlfriend. You won't regret it. But as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.